Welcome to the Smart Legacy Podcast, your resource for protecting assets and securing your future. Hosted by Stockton and Kandt, join us as we cover essential estate planning and elder law topics, such as wills, trusts, and Medicaid planning. Stockton and Kandt, your trusted attorney advisors in safeguarding what matters most. What families need to know before a crisis, senior living and aging transitions. Welcome to another episode of the Smart Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Stockton, managing partner of the estate planning and elder law firm of Stockton and Kandt, with offices in Overland Park and Gardner, Kansas. At Stockton and Kandt, we believe estate planning is serious, deliberate, and deeply human work. It's about protecting the people you love and making sure that when the time comes, your family is guided by clarity, not chaos. Each episode, we focus on helping you make informed, confident decisions about your plan, your wealth, and your legacy. Today's episode is one that I believe will resonate with many families. We are talking about what families need to know before a crisis, specifically when it comes to senior living and the transitions that come along with aging. And to help guide that conversation, I'm joined today by Aaron and Tabitha Krull with the Oasis Senior Advisors here in Kansas City. So Aaron and Tabitha, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So if you would, just tell us a little about who is Oasis Advisors.
Well, sure.
Oasis Senior Advisors, I guess I should say.
So Oasis Senior Advisors is my wife, Tabitha, and myself. We purchased the Kansas City franchise about 6 years ago, and we are part of a franchise system. Oasis is a free service for older adults and their families. We help guide them to what the senior living options are that are out there, as well as any resources in the area. And we're part of a bigger umbrella of services with regards to Silver Assist, who is our parent company. And then we have our sister companies, Elder Life Financial, Aid and Attendance, and most recently Caring.com. So we have an incredible reach for our families to help guide them through every step as far as it goes towards senior living options.
And you said a word there that I think many people probably latched onto. You used the word free services there. So tell me about, how is it that you can provide this free, and what are the services that, what does a senior advisor do?
Absolutely. So we're free to the families. How we remain free is the senior living communities pay us to find them qualified residents and help guide those families to their communities.
Okay. Regardless of what community it is. So you've got many communities you can go to find the right fit for the people, but ultimately they're going to be the one paying the bill for bringing someone to them. So it's free for the family.
Absolutely. We work with over 200 different buildings in the area that supply some type of care for older adults.
All right. And so what does it look like when a family first comes to you, reaches out to you? What does that look like?
So what that looks like is just a call, friendly conversation, consultation. Somebody calls, they've been referred to us by a social worker, a discharge planner, a friend, a family member, and they say, I don't know what I need to do next. What does this look like? My mom needs assisted living. Dad fell. He's at the hospital. He has dementia. They're saying he can't go back home. So it's just a phone call. Sometimes it's in person. A lot of times it's in person. Mm-hmm. And that conversation is just finding out what's going on. What's going on with your loved one? Where are they? Where do they live now? Where are they at the moment? What's their limitations? What are their needs? Do they need help showering? Do they need help dressing? Or do they just need somebody to manage their meds and make sure they're getting their meals? Does your loved one have dementia, and do they need a secure environment, or are they okay but with some extra supportive services? So the consult is really just to find out where people are and what they need, so we can help give them guidance on what exists within those parameters, and of course their budget, because obviously people have to be mindful of where their money's going and how they're spending it. But also, the Kansas City metro area is a very small city, meaning we've got people crossing state lines every single day, multiple times a day. You may be a lifelong Northlander, but your kids have up and moved to Johnson County, and they've got 3 12-year-old boys who are running around doing sports, and mom and dad want to move closer to them, but they don't know the first thing to look at. You might have Lee's Summit lifelong residents whose kids want them to stay out in that area, but closer to this side of town so that they can move to them. One of the things that we're able to do, because we cover all of Kansas City, is help families find options that are in whatever location they need to look in.
I think, that location becomes such an important
Absolutely.
piece of, where's the right fit. And that's certainly, one of the big ones is you want something that's convenient for, for the families to come visit, to come help out. But also often it's you want to stay near your home. And so that becomes a big one. What are some of the other big considerations besides location that you find families are most concerned with or that are most important as you guys are helping find that right fit?
So a couple of things. Obviously, finances always have to be considered. They're not all created equal, and this is not an inexpensive need either. When you're taking care of somebody, when you're providing care support 24 hours a day, there is a financial obligation that is involved in that. The other thing, too, is that no two places are the same. While they might have a lot of the same amenities, the personality of the population, the way the management team engages with the residents, the way the building lays out, there's all kinds of nuance to this decision that most people aren't even able to take into consideration because they've never done it and they don't know what they need, or they've never had somebody talk to them about what would make sense for them. Mm-hmm. So those things are important. Activities of daily living, those are the things that somebody needs help with every single day, whether it's standby shower assistance or actual physical full hands-on assistance with the shower. It could be dressing. Every place, whether you're in Kansas or Missouri, offer these services in slightly different ways. So knowing the nuances of each of these buildings will help families find the one that fits their needs the best. So I would say those are probably all the biggest criteria. Now, in addition to that, when we circle back to the financial piece, knowing what the landscape of the financial investment looks like. So for people that have a long-term care policy or access to Veterans Aid and Attendance benefits or a healthy monthly income or assets, they have a lot more leeway in the decision making than somebody that's maybe on a fixed income that doesn't have assets. So knowing what the process from private pay to Medicaid is on both sides of the state line is super important. And it's just slightly different enough that people don't realize that you can move from one side of the state line to the other and change your options and change your living situation.
And we've had the opportunity to work with you guys as, elder law attorneys. We've had a chance to work with the same families. And, we tell them all the time, because from the legal planning, how do we protect the assets? How do we avoid going broke, paying for care? And we come in, but the rules, you cross the state line and we have different rules that can fit. And sometimes that can become a consideration as to how, where are we going to go? Well, which side of the state line, because maybe makeup of assets or something like that.
Absolutely.
So that's it. So let's talk about levels of care. And, we got independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing care. You mentioned memory care. So maybe walk us through what are these levels of care so the listeners can kind of understand, what we're talking about when we use those terms.
Absolutely. And personally, thank you for that question, because I think language in senior living is really important. I think touching on what words mean impacts the way somebody responds to news about what the next phase of life looks like for them. So what I mean by that is there may be a hospitalization. The doctor might walk in and say, you can't live by yourself any longer. You need 24/7 care. Well, for the older population, their mind immediately goes to a typical skilled nursing facility or what we know as a nursing home, where in reality, that may not be what they need. Maybe what the doctor means is you shouldn't be at home overnight by yourself anymore because you're falling. So we need to make sure that you're in the right place for that. But maybe you can get around on your own. You can take a shower with only a little bit of extra support. Well, that option looks vastly different than a skilled nursing facility. So to your point, Independent living is where older adults move into a community and they get amenities provided to them in addition and in accordance with their rent. So that might be a meal plan, that might be activities. Oftentimes, and most times, it's utilities and Wi-Fi and or cable for the most part. That's more of a social environment. People that need meals and social engagement, that's a great environment for them because they can still maintain their full independence without having to worry about somebody knocking on the door to make sure that they're okay. But they've got people around. They're not isolating in their homes. They are going to lunch, going to dinner, going out with friends for an outing. There's somebody to transport them to the Walmart weekly so that they can pick up, whatever little things that they might need or groceries. The next step from independent living is assisted living. Assisted living is a similar type of environment as independent living, but there are caregivers around 24/7. They build out what's called a care plan, meaning the director of nursing meets with the family and says, tell me what's going on with you. Let me put some eyes on you and see what you need. And then let's build a care support plan around what your day looks like. That might be somebody coming by to give you meds. That might be somebody coming by to remind you to go to dinner. Maybe cognition is changing as we get older. But that environment is not a secure environment. So you have to be able to self-propel yourself into some of those activities, whether it's going to lunch, going to dinner, maybe asking for help. Maybe you just wake up not feeling well and you need to be able to push the button to have somebody come check in on you. So assisted living is kind of like the bumpers at the bowling alley. You're not falling off the cliff because the bumpers exist so that you stay safe. Memory care is a similar environment to assisted living. This is specific for people with dementia or cognitive impairment. What that looks like is a secure door. So they're typically smaller environments because somebody with cognitive change needs less space to be confused in and less decisions to have to make on a daily basis. So in memory care, there's a secure door. That secure door does not exist for people to be locked behind as much as it is to ensure that people don't wander out and get lost. I mean, you don't want your mom who's had dementia for a couple of years to decide she's going to go outside at 9:00 at night on December 20th when there's 2 feet of snow and ice. So those doors exist for that. In memory care, additionally, those activities of daily living are supported by caregivers, director of nursing, the team to do the prompting for them. So in memory care, a resident is not expected to know that they need to hit the button to get assistance. Their care team and that care plan that they're given is automatically presumed to come in and take care of them. So they're actually prompting them. And a skilled nursing facility is what we know as a traditional nursing home. And there is a wide variety of skilled nursing homes. They offer short-term rehab stays and long-term care placement. Long-term care placement can exist in the manner in which somebody needs help on a day-to-day basis, but they also maybe don't have the financial means to pay privately out of pocket. That's where Medicaid comes in. Additionally, skilled nursing is for people that need a high level of physical care assistance. So what that looks like is, well, I can speak from my own familial experience. Erin's grandmother was in a skilled nursing facility at the end of her dementia journey. She had kind of lost the ability to do a lot of things for herself physically, and she had to have a lot of 24/7 nursing care. So that might mean feeding. Somebody might actually physically need somebody to feed them. They might be on a feeding tube. Maybe they have a catheter, or maybe they have a PICC line and they get daily injections of antibiotics because they have some coexisting disease in conjunction with their normal, aging process. Those features exist kind of as a clinical setting. So similar to what you're used to seeing in a hospital, that's what a skilled nursing facility is like. There's much more clinical stuff around you. Hoyer lifts and hospital beds, that kind of thing.
I think not everybody realizes that, not every senior living community can handle all those. If you need a feeding tube, the level of care you need can also kind of maybe limit choices or direct us where we may need to go. And if you guys find that to be still true today, I know it's been true in the past.
Yeah,
so.
I actually almost daily explain to my families that the senior living licensing is a spectrum. Think of it like your gas tank. They can offer 100%. The gas tank can be completely full, but what they have going on in the building may not allow for them to give you that 100%. Maybe it's 70%. I would add, too, that I failed to mention, here in Johnson County, we have a couple on the Missouri side, but here in Johnson County, we also have things called residential care homes. Many of those are dementia focused, so they have secure spaces for those who might wander outside. But you're talking about a living space that has a caregiver to resident ratio of 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, which is significantly lower than a corporate community environment. So there are a lot of people that prefer that type of setting as well. It's a great bridge to skilled nursing. It's a great option for people that don't want to go into skilled nursing, but maybe are a little beyond the scope of traditional assisted living or memory care too.
You know, it was one of those things. I grew up in the nursing home business. If you will, my mom, she'd been a nurse, and then she later in her career became an activity director for a skilled nursing facility. But these were the nursing homes of the 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
and a lot has changed. And a term that I had never heard back then, at least not anywhere she was at, was continuum of care. So if you would, talk a little bit about that and how that might factor into, what's the best placement for somebody if it does factor in.
So surely it definitely factors in. Each situation is case by case. So a continuum of care is the progression from one level of living to the next, but also a progression of care that can be supported within those doors. So let's take a CCRC, for example, continuing care retirement community. Those are the big places around Kansas City that offer all levels of care: independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. So from the outset, what that looks like is somebody could move into independent living as a fully independent resident who just needs some social engagement, but as time goes on, they need more care support throughout the progression of their life, and then all the way up until they need that skilled nursing level of support. So that's a continuum. However, a continuum of care can exist at a building that has just assisted living and memory care. In those situations, they kind of pivot the term to age in place. What age in place means is that an individual rarely has to be removed from that level of living into a skilled nursing facility, because the building can provide, either within the confines of the team that they have in place, or bringing in third-party resources like home care, home health, and hospice to support somebody to continue aging through the end of their life.
So they have this continuing care. You start in there, but, you mentioned at the outset that, how people, reach out to you. It's because maybe they've been in the hospital and figure out they can't go home, and we're kind of in a crisis situation a little bit. And I assume that's where the majority of the people are coming in. But is there an advantage to starting earlier and thinking earlier about this rather than waiting till that moment when you actually need care?
100% yes. And I'm gonna answer this in two ways. First way being proactive versus being reactive, specifically in those situations, changes what the landscape of the decision making looks like. When you're proactive, you're driving the bus. You have all of the decisions ahead of you that you get to make. You get to decide if you're turning left or right. Sometimes when there is a hospitalization or a traumatic event, you don't have those choices anymore. If your parent has dementia that becomes aggressive or violent, the options that you had before those changes happened look significantly different than after those changes happened. The other way I would answer that question is, and actually this is really in support of what you guys do as elder law attorneys and estate planners, is that there are legal implications to this decision making, not only financial, but medically as well. There's a lot of families that don't talk about end-of-life decision-making. So whether that's actually passing away or just knowing who's going to make your medical decisions for you. And I can tell you from experience, and I'm sure you can attest as well, if you have a loved one that has cognitive impairment and suddenly there is, and that's documented in their history, suddenly there's a medical event and there's no paperwork for somebody to make a decision, the process becomes so much more convoluted, anguished, difficult, sad. It's a lot. And not just for the loved one who's confused, but really for the family members who want to be making decisions and helping, it's really hard.
Yeah, often when they wait too long, then all of a sudden we've got to get the courts involved.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about this stuff early on, to have a plan, we can always adjust those plans as we go on, but to kind of make sure that we've got the groundwork covered when the time comes. And for most of us, we hope we never need to go to skilled nursing or assisted living. Although I will tell you that has changed a lot too from where I have a whole lot of clients, and I'm sure you've seen this as well as clients of yours, that they're voluntarily going because there is this continuing care. They're vibrant lifestyles that can exist within these communities, and it's just changed so much over the years from what I saw growing up to what I see now when I go into these places. So, and you guys I see you're nodding your head, kind of seeing the same thing. I go in and I think, I could live here. I can do this.
Even just in the 6 years that we've been in business, they've significantly changed. And I'll tell you, and I'm sure you've seen this too, doing a consult with the family or with the older loved ones, the older clients, they immediately oftentimes put their guard up, like, I'm not doing that. I will say, just pick one of them. Let's go have lunch. You don't even have to walk around the building if you don't want. I just want you to put eyes on it. And I think it will help ease that concern that what's in your head is what we're talking about as the next step. And I would be willing to bet that 99% of the time it makes a huge impact on on what they decide they want to do for themselves.
Yeah, it has changed so much. And, with the communities, with you guys, with, us, we always want, our clients to be as independent as they, want and need to be. But sometimes because of health issues, loss of mobility, cognitive functioning, we have lost a degree of that independence. But finding that right community where you have as much independence as you need, and so many things go in. Do you like outdoor space? Do you like to do gardening? What are the activities they have? And all those kind of things that can factor in. And you go in, and some of these places are just absolutely beautiful. So going in. So let's say a family that says, okay, well, I want to learn more about this. I want to explore, maybe get a plan in place so when the time comes, we already have that. Is there a time when it's too early to start doing this, to reach out to you guys?
No, there's not. And the reason comes back to that proactive versus reactive situation, first of all. Secondly, it's never bad to have too much knowledge. I mean, well, that's probably not true. There is a point at which you can have too much
paralysis by analysis,
absolutely,
kind of thing,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah, right.
But knowing what exists prior, it's going to help you make having those conversations with the other decision makers in your life a little bit easier as well, because you're not coming from a place of fear in the conversation. You're coming from a place of education and understanding. So I tell people, just call us. There is no harm in having a conversation. We're not going to make you sign any documents. We're not going to strong arm you into doing anything. Heck, even if you just want to quelch your curiosity and go in and see a place, we can make that happen. They're also not going to bug you. The senior living space, of course, it's a business. There's a reason those buildings exist, right? But it's also a service. It's also to provide a support for aging adults and allow them to stay in a space that ensures their independence as long as possible. That's ultimately the goal. Allow people to be independent as long as possible. The other thing I would say to that is just knowing that our types of services exist, because that what am I going to do moment, that hospitalization, that can happen at any time. And just knowing that there is a phone call that you can make or a website that you can reach out to somebody and say, I don't know what I'm going to do. Please call me, my mom, blah, blah, blah. I need help. It makes a world of difference. I mean, I've got social workers in hospitals that I work with all over the city that will say, listen, I know these people aren't going to move anywhere, but they just don't know what to do. It's just a phone call for me, so I'm happy to do it. And sometimes it's just connecting to resources. Maybe they don't have a DPOA, and I know that you guys can take care of that, so I can refer them to you so they don't end up searching all over the web and not knowing where to land. Maybe they're discharging and they need therapy at home and they don't have a clue who's in their area. or they need somebody to come by the house once a month and do their medication management. So they need a private duty company. Just by having a conversation with them, I can kind of glean those things and give them resources here locally in Kansas City to help support those needs.
And I think the number was 200 buildings throughout the Kansas City area that you can help find there. And if they don't lean to people like you that help, that know the communities, their family, maybe they look at 2, 3, 4, probably at the most. They don't know what is all out there, what options they have. And I think having someone that's in your position that can guide them through this journey of life, and it is a journey of life that many of us go through. Statistically, 70% of people are going to end up in some form of long-term care during their lifetime, and just having that plan charted out in advance can be so helpful. But even if they find them in that crisis mode, to have that guide that knows, can help them find that right fit. So it's valuable service that you guys provide. It's why we love partnering up with you guys to be able to steer our clients to you that find themselves in that need, to find the place that's right for them, their family, and their situation. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, you said starting point would be just call, right? So what would be that phone number that they would call you at?
So they can reach out to us at 816-608-3112.
Okay.
Another way to connect is through our webpage. We do have a HIPAA protected page that they can fill out the form on that page.
Okay. And we'll make sure we put that in the call notes for the show, so people have that, are able to access your website or phone number going in. Before we wrap up here, anything further you think would be important for listeners to know about the services you provide, or just things that they ought to think about as they're kind of going through this journey for themselves or for a loved one?
I think a big important piece is the fact that we're also across 36 different states, and we are in 160 territories. So it's not necessarily just the Kansas City area. If there's a loved one in Florida or a family in Florida and you want to move near Florida or possibly Arizona or New York, so we have counterparts that do just what we do, boots on the ground in those areas that we can connect them with, that they can end up there as well. And then through our online platform, if we don't have boots on the ground, we can help guide them in areas where maybe there isn't boots on the ground, but we can provide them help in those areas. I think another piece I would also mention is the fact that besides those national companies that we partner with, our we locally is so strong. When you think about Kansas City Strong, that's local businesses like yourself, for example, that we can reach out to provide whatever that service looks like for the family. Maybe they need a mover, maybe they need an elder law attorney, a downsizer, any of that stuff. We can help. We can help guide that process. I really feel like we've come to this point where we're empowering people to navigate the complex realities of aging, whatever that looks like. We can supply them support.
Yeah.
And I'd actually expand on that even just a little bit. One of the benefits of Oasis Senior Advisors as an entire company is that we're part of Silver Assist, which is our bigger umbrella of services. So we own Elder Life Financial, which has been in the senior living space for 27 years. They help people find some of the financial supports to help them get to the next stage of life. One of their biggest products is their bridge loan product. There's almost not a community in Kansas City that does not also work with Elder Life Financial. Much like your wife does with your company, we have aidandattendance.com, which helps families find and apply for the Veterans Aid and Attendance benefits to help pay for assisted living, level care, and higher. So it's a great, inexpensive resource. There are a lot of services that provide that at a higher cost. Ours is not. And it's a digital platform. So for those that do have family members that can help navigate through the digital piece of that, it's a great resource. We also recently, as a company, purchased caring.com. So we are in the middle of, literally right smack in the middle of becoming this huge online resource to families in social works and hospital teams all across the country to help support this next step. And the caring.com model is going to change kind of It will never be able to be what actually happens with boots on the ground. That's just not realistic. But their current business model as it was is going to go to the wayside and reflect how we do business at a local level. And I think it's just really going to disrupt the industry in a way that has never been seen.
One of the things you brought up there as you were talking about that, the aid and intensive, so many things out there that can help with pay. So, that's a benefit for our veterans, wartime veterans, and spouses of veterans. And so one of the benefits of reaching out to you guys is you can help direct them. So many people don't even know this benefit exists. The VA has so many programs out there. They do a very poor job of educating veterans and the families about what they can do. So where you can help identify that, wait a minute, there's assistance here to help you. And that's real money, free, tax-free money. Obviously, that program is only for our wartime veterans, but so many don't know about it.
No.
So, I would say, to your point, also convincing them that it's for them. They served our country when we needed them.
Yeah.
It's not something that they're, just getting gifted. They earned it, and we owe it to them. We really do. So,
what's interesting, if you go back and believe it's in the preamble to the legislation, so that program for the VA that came out, came out right after the Korean War. As a nation, we'd been through World War I, World War II. We were just finished up Korea. And the preamble to that legislation reads something along the lines of this: as thanks from a grateful nation, you were there in our time of greatest need. We want to be there in your time of need. And there was something that, and I believe it was in the preamble to that legislation. And so it really is something that they were trying to give back to those veterans who put it all on the line. And you didn't actually have to be in the war. You had to be serving during the war. And there's some requirements, service requirements, and for spouses, marriage requirements. But there's so many who don't know about it. We could have a whole segment just on that VA, and that'd be a great future segment to probably talk about.
I see those service hats, and the first thing I'm asking is, are you getting care at home? Do you pay for it out of your pocket? Oh, you do? Okay, call me. Let's just have I want to talk to you.
Yeah, because the VA doesn't care where you receive care. You could be receiving the care at home, skilled nursing, independent living, memory care. Doesn't matter where. And so many people don't know that.
Yep.
All right. Well, Aaron, Tabitha, thank you for being here today. I think this was great information for our listeners. I've enjoyed this coming in, so thank you very much for being here. And for our listeners, if you found this conversation helpful, I'd encourage you to share it with someone that you care about, because these are the kinds of conversations that can make a real difference for families. And if you're getting value from this podcast, I'd invite you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. If you'd like to explore maybe past episodes of this, you can find the Smart Legacy podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as on our website at stocktonlaw.com. And if you're listening today and wondering whether your own property accounts for those types of transitions, whether you've got them properly done and do they work the way you want them to, reach out to us at Stockton Kandt. It's our privilege to serve as a trusted advisor to families through the seasons of life, helping ensure that when the time comes, their loved ones are supported with clarity and not left with confusion. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people you love. Aaron, Tabitha, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. Laws vary by state, and this podcast focuses on estate planning and elder law in Kansas and Missouri. If you're located in Kansas or Missouri and require legal advice, please contact our office. Otherwise, consult a qualified attorney licensed in your jurisdiction.